A very good morning to you. What do we know about who will be part of this march?
Well, MECs from the provincial government, MECs from transport and safety, MEC for health here in the Eastern Cape will be joined by various organizations that are going to be marching and calling for an end to gender-based violence, and specifically in this case calling an end to women abuse. Their march is going to start where we are at the corner of Governor Mbeki Road and Albany Road. This is where the march will start. They will then proceed to march to the Port Elizabeth High Court, and it is very it's a message that they're trying to send out to the public, and trying to urge people to be part of this march, trying to urge people to be part of campaigns that are rallying behind the various victims that are expected to testify at the Port Elizabeth High Court following Cheryl Zondi's testimony over the past couple of weeks. Now, just to recap what has been happening in court here, Uveka, remember that the defense lawyer Duberman asked Judge Makola to recuse himself, and then he later on dismissed the application for the recusal. We know that it's going to be a very lengthy court proceeding. Now, as much as we've seen so much support behind the victims and behind women abuse in general, we did yesterday, in fact I had an opportunity to speak to someone who is an ex-member of the Jesus Dominion International Church. He grew up in that church. He was invited and introduced to the church by his aunt. He started at the age of 9. He's in his 20s right now, and he was just talking to me about their daily engagements in the church and how they looked up to Timothy Omotoso as their father and as their pastor, as well as his wife, who they refer to as Mummy. They've lost trust in him, Uveka, following his arrest last year. And even before that, they had tried to probe and try to look into some of the cases that people came forward with, alleging that Timothy Omotoso had raped them. And following that, they were obviously axed as members of that church because they were asked to let this matter go. But apparently, they didn't let it go. They proceeded to investigate this until they were axed by the church leadership. We have made attempts to try and speak to the church. We've sent them emails trying to get them to respond to what has been happening. A couple of days ago, Uveka, I managed to speak to one of the leaders outside the Port Elizabeth High Court, and he spoke about how they are there to support their father, in this case Timothy Omotoso, saying that they want justice to take its course and that they do not want to be involved in any kind of violence. So we are still waiting for Timothy Omotoso's church pastors to respond to media inquiries regarding their view on what has been happening throughout this trial.
And very interesting, Athi, that we saw the scenes earlier this week when all those groupings came out to shut down that service and take down the sign advertising that that was a church. But I just want to know from you any signs, and I know that you say you haven't heard from them, but what are the chances that they might come out in support of their pastor today as a challenge to the march that is being planned by the provincial authorities?
Well, at this stage, Rebecca, what we know is that they will constantly be outside the Port Elizabeth High Court whenever Timothy Omotoso takes back to the stand. In this case, it will be obviously on Thursday when court resumes. But however, today we just know of this group led by provincial government that will be marching to the Port Elizabeth High Court, even though court won't be going on today in particular with this case. They will be marching there to obviously march against women abuse, against gender-based violence, but Timothy Omotoso's church members haven't indicated whether they'll be marching, opposing this march, which will be held by the provincial government here in the Eastern Cape.
Thanks very much, Athi Mtongana.